Welcome back. Now, the issue of legislative immunity remains a very controversial one in Nigeria. And so many Nigerians actually went on the offensive when the bill seeking to grant immunity to the principal officers of the National and State Assemblies narrowly passed second reading in the House of Representatives last week. Now, the bill seeks to amend Section 308 of the 1999 Constitution, which shields the president, vice president, state governors, and their deputies from prosecution during their stay in office. It seeks to extend the similar privilege to presiding officers of the federal and state houses of assembly. Sponsor of the bill, Honorable Odebumi Olusegun, said it is targeted at avoiding distraction for the leadership of the legislative arm while carrying out their functions. Now, recall that the same bill was actually debated in the 8th Assembly and eventually didn't see the light of day. It's now been brought back and has scaled second reading. But the question is, should this be what lawmakers should actually be considering at this time? Do principal officers of the National and State Assemblies actually need immunity? Let's discuss this further now. I'm being joined on the program from Abuja by Honorable Femi Bamishile, who represents Ekiti South Federal Constituency 2 in the Federal House of Representatives. Honorable, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Why exactly do you want immunity? Why do lawmakers want immunity?
For lawmakers to have immunity, let's first start with what immunity is itself, clearly. It's just a process that holds you away from and does not determine that you won't be culpable at the end of your tenure. It's just a process that holds you for a certain time. But the fact is,
look, there's a campaign to even remove immunity for the president, the governors and their deputies, and you are asking for immunity. Why exactly do you need it?
No, listen to me clearly. It was something moved by the Senate, and you need to clearly understand this. What do you think the National Assembly is all about? It's about debate. It's about lobbying. If someone decides to move a particular motion on the floor, you don't kill the motion before hearing the motion.
But as a member of the Federal House, does this make sense to you?
At this point in time, for me, immunities are for the executive. I was a one-time Speaker of the House of Assembly, and the only thing that immunity does is it protects the individual from being harassed or taken away from exactly what is being constitutionally voted to do. That's all it is. Outside of that, like I said, it doesn't protect you for life. And I'm not saying that the National Assembly should be seeking for immunity as we speak. But whoever must have brought the motion probably looked, it could be a floor member, it could be a principal officer, probably was looking at the rate at which people are being distracted away from their duty,
because it really beats my imagination. How are lawmakers, for instance, being distracted from their work? I just can't think of how lawmakers
let us take for instance,
immunity,
a principal officer.
Distraction.
Listen, let us take for instance a principal officer has a particular issue in court to attend to, and there are issues to be discussed on several locations on the floor of the House. For instance, let us use the majority leader who moves motion for the House of Reps. If he has a particular case pending in court, I know you'd argue with me that there's a deputy majority leader, but the bottom line is we don't want that to be distractions and all that. But I'm not saying that when it comes to vote, you don't know where I'm going to put my vote in. As I said, I was a former speaker, and I'm just thinking out of the box for whoever must have dropped that particular motion on the floor. Whoever the person is would argue his case, and we'll have to debate it.
As a former speaker, tell me honestly, do you think lawmakers in this country actually need immunity?
Let me be very clear with you. As a former Speaker of the House of Assembly in Ekiti State, and even presently as a lawmaker at the National House of Reps, I don't see a reason why a principal officer would need what is called immunity, sincerely. But, like I said, I'm just one out of 360 people. It's going to lead into a debate, and we're going to argue it out. And let us see where it tilts towards.
Because, you know, before now, there had been calls, for instance, that the immunity for the president, his vice, governors and their deputies should
even before I got elected into the National Assembly, I was one of those who advocated that immunity clauses should be removed from the executive. And you clearly would understand where I'm coming from. But like I said, this is democracy. This is where issues are being discussed. This is where issues are being debated. This is where you put your motions on the floor and we argue it back and forth. Let us see where it's going to tilt towards. But for me, you know where my vote would go to.
And it's really quite surprising that this would even be coming up in the first place, to be candid.
You can't shut a vote out before it comes on the floor, particularly when it comes to as a point of interest to an individual representing a constituency. You'd allow for that particular debate to get to the floor. It's going to be argued. If it goes through the first reading, the second reading, even before it becomes a law, we would ask on a public debate on this, deliberation on this and all that. So I can assure you, it is nothing Nigerians should really be bothered about. If it is something that we're not really attached to wanting to do, it is going to be voted on the floor out. All
right, Honorable Femi Bamishile, member now representing Ekiti South Federal Constituency, if I'm correct. That's we thank you very much.
Yes, South Federal Constituency too.
Thank you very much for joining us on the program, and thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on this very controversial issue.
You're welcome.
We'll take another break, and when we come back, the Supreme Court comes down hard on senior lawyers over its verdict on the Bayelsa State governorship. On DEJI 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country. I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly. God forbid that I go to join that
DEJI 360, providing clarity to issues.